The challenge of a lifetime, a struggle against the mountain. One racer, one bike, and over 19 miles of torturous terrain. This is a special presentation of KKTV 11. And here's our host, John Owens.
This morning, with a temperature of 48 degrees at race time, the first ever Pikes Peak Summit Challenge was held. It was 34 degrees at the top of Pikes Peak. The chill factor was 23 degrees under clear skies. Last night, it snowed on the peak. For a while, it did not look like they would be able to make it to the top.
Right now, we feel we have ice on the upper levels, and if it gets too slick, we can't let anybody go any further than that. And we're hoping that maybe it isn't as bad as it looks right now.
What do you think the chances are for the riders to even attempt to get up to the top of Pikes Peak?
I think right now it don't look too good.
But those fears melted away with the rising sun, and the racers were ready. 143 cyclists prepared their bikes and themselves for perhaps the toughest challenge they will ever face as cyclists.
I think I should be able to. I've climbed level and pass before, and when it was the Coors, and I think I could do it. Been training hard for the Worlds, and the roadies are going to kill me up there, but I'm going to do my best.
It's a little over 19 miles to the top of Pikes Peak, and the altitude is 14,000 feet. As the first group of riders took off, the race was underway. The race was run in 3 stages. First to take off were the Category 1 and 2 men racers, along with the professional men. Those men were the first off the line just about 6:30 this morning. It did not take Doug Smith of Boulder long to establish a lead in the race. The riders will soon be approaching us here at Cascade Dam. So far, the road has been paved, but soon they will hit the dirt section of the mountain. We will soon know who has the right equipment. Now, some racers are using their standard race machines. Some bikes are very similar, in some cases identical to the machines used during the entire race at the World Cycling Velodrome. Now, some racers have decided to use the so-called mountain bikes, while others are using their traditional racing equipment. Bill Huddy is talking with some of the riders about the equipment they have chosen today.
Thanks, John. The big questions we have is what type of equipment the cyclists will be using here. Ken Gross here. Ken, you decided on the racer with the smaller tires.
I like this bike because I rode it across country. It's a good touring bike. It's got 15 gears. It's got a 1-to-1 ratio on it. It's got about an extra 1/4 of an inch on the tires from what the other racers will have.
Any concerns about hitting a rock and splitting a tire with these narrow tires?
I think I have the advantage with these tires because I do have the extra 1/4 inch, and I've got a little bit of extra tread on them.
Okay. Ken, thank you very much for a look at what type of bikes, including mountain bikes, we have this report. Most racers are expected to use mountain bikes like these in the ascent, bikes with fat tires but lightweight frames. The mountain bike has become a hot-selling item.
Well, we now sell more mountain bikes in our store than any other kind of bike. I love bashing down from North Cheyenne Canyon on my mountain bike, sliding around in the snow, being a 10-year-old again.
Along with the evolution of a mountain bike are the development of components for its use. For instance, brakes that shed mud and debris, lightweight wheels with fat tires, also the lightweight frame.
They're a double-butted chromoly frame, which makes them strong but lightweight. The wheels are a alloy wheel, again for the weight restrictions. The brake system is designed, they have a new system out, the Suntour brakes, that's designed with a cam action, but they have a cantilever brake, which is a much stronger stopping brake for the mountain area bikes.
Average weight nowadays is about 30 pounds, and with the 30 pounds comes incredibly strong wheels. You know, since we've had a fair amount of publicity the last few years as far as mountain bikes and their use and where they can go, most people are now not surprised at what you can do, but just pleased with where they can go and what they can get away with.
Do you think they're here to stay?
I think they're here to stay. We've seen much more demand on them in the last 2 years, and they're harder and harder to get shipped in. As soon as they come in, they're sold out immediately.
And today, the mountain bike is running circles around the competition when it comes to off-road riding.
The mountain bikes did not fare as well as some cyclists thought because the roads were in much better shape than expected. The top 5 finishers were all riding road bikes, including the man who tripped the clock with the fastest time of the day, Doug Smith of Boulder, Colorado. His time was 1 hour, 50 minutes, 23 seconds. Smith jumped into an early lead and continued to increase his lead throughout the course. He appeared strong during the race. In fact, at one point with a mile to go, he could be heard singing his favorite song as he was counting the dollars he was about to pocket.
That's what I want. That's what I want. Money. Just give me money. That's what I want. Oh, yeah, yeah. That's what I want.
Although it appeared to the race fans that Smith finished the race in good shape, it was soon apparent that the torturous trail had taken its toll. After Doug recovered, he talked to us about his strategy in winning the first ever Pikes Peak Summit Challenge.
Well, I didn't want to go too hard, too soon, and blow up. So I was with Chris Schmidt and Don Spence, both of Colorado Springs, and we were going along pretty well, the three of us working together, trying to make up as much time as possible on the chase pack. Then Chris started having some problems, so it was just Don Spence and I. So Don and I kind of decided that we should try to stay away from Chris as long as possible. And the two of us worked together to achieve that goal, and we were just going too slow. Chris Schmidt caught us, and then at that point, our agreement fell by the wayside. Then it was every man for himself again, so as soon as Chris caught, I just said, well, gotta go for it now. So that's what I did, and I was a little bit worried because I was alone for probably 10 or 11 miles, more than half the race, and I just had to really pace myself and be really careful. It was tough.
What about the weather conditions? Of course, you took off down there. It was 48 degrees down below, and now up here now it's 37 degrees. The wind chill factor is 23 degrees. The weather affected you pretty bad on the way up.
Yes, it was windy. On the switchbacks, it was really tough going into the wind, but I just knew that with each switchback I'd get a tailwind on the return. So I just kept that in mind and just kept pacing myself, just kept drinking, just kept thinking dollar signs.
Second place in the men's division went to Tony Comfort of Boulder, Colorado. His time was 1 hour, 57 minutes, 25 seconds.